Hello and welcome to another episode of Roots and Resilience, a leadership podcast by DBNC where we have conversations about leadership. We hope that these conversations build insightful and engaging perspectives as we journey in our lives. My name is Christian Fox, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Justin Alliman. Justin, thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing on this Thursday morning?
You know what? I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's a sunny day outside. It's Black History Month, and I'm ready to get this going.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, reading about you and talking to you back in the fall, you are just like a man who is just doing so much for the world right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and kind of, what you're working on?
Well, there's a lot. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing a little bit too much, but I know everything has its purpose. So I'm a global basketball coordinator. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a facility in the Greater Toronto area. I'm an author, so I'm currently working on my second book. I have a management company, and I'm doing a couple things out in LA right now that I just can't get into, but you'll know soon.
Okay, that's super cool. So, there's so many places we can go. I think right now, why don't you talk a little bit about the Academy and how that got started?
So the Academy actually started when I was in university. At this point, I had just left New York, and I went to finish my last 2 years in university in Newfoundland. And I was taking business. And just like any other student, I was wondering, what am I going to do with my business degree? Or what business am I actually going to go to? Am I going to open my own business? Or am I going to work for someone else? How is this all going to figure itself out? And one day, my coach came to me and he said, there's a father here looking for training. And I didn't think he was going to choose me. No one else put their hand up. He was asking the guys on the basketball team. And he just said, Justin, you know what? A lot of the guys here respond and listen to you when you're doing drills and stuff. Why don't you give it a shot? So I said, sure. So I trained the kid. And after that, I realized, you know what? This could be something that I could use my business degree and business knowledge towards. So when I came back to Toronto, I was selling cars. And eventually I realized that, the car business is not going anywhere. But if I want to do this with my business, I should start it now. The earlier I start, the more success I'm going to have later on down the road. So I started that, and it's been able to grow and allow me to travel to numerous countries around the world where I've been able to train over 100,000 kids worldwide, live in about 8 or 9 different countries, and just being able to get my knowledge and hands and feel on a lot of different aspects in the world and contribute to that.
Wow, that is super cool. And I just love that, someone came along and said, hey, can you train this kid for a little bit? And then that basically inspired you to start this business. Yeah, that's amazing. And reading about your business online, one of the things that immediately stood out to me was the fact that you're not just training people who are of a certain skill level. You're not saying, hey, you have to, have been playing basketball for like 10 years before you can come. Your whole thing is, no, you want this to be open to anyone, regardless of skill level. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I felt like in order to make it in this business or in any business, you got to do something that's a little different from everyone else, right? And I know there's a lot of companies out here who do basketball training, and it's more so for the elites or for kids who are intermediate or advanced. They've been playing on teams or they're already exposed to this. But for me, I said, you know what? Why not give training or professional training at that, to say the least, to everybody who wants it? You know what I mean? If we were to put 2 kids side by side and one who plays on teams already and one who's just beginning and give them the same training, who's to say that the kid who's starting a little bit later can't catch up or surpass that other kid? You know what I mean? So I also like to say we're inclusive to everyone, but exclusive at the same time. And what I mean by that is anybody, any race, any shape, any size. If you're 10 years old, 15 years old, you play in the NBA, you don't play basketball at all, or WNBA, college, it doesn't really matter. Everyone is welcome to come and everyone has a right to that training. And the exclusive part is you got to be part of us. So we do a thing. We're very family orientated. So we like to take care of others who are within our program. It's not just numbers over here. everyone has a file, everyone has a name, everyone has a face to who they are. So this is where the exclusive part comes in, where I want you to feel like this is your family, you're part of us. And then, of course, you're welcome to come to our training at any time, as long as you sign up for one of our sessions, whether that be one-on-one, group training, our give back sessions, or any of that nature. We have multiple. Now, for people who can't afford it or families who might not have the financial backing, we do have resources allocated so that we're able to serve those as well.
That's great that you're able to help families that, might not be able to afford it. So if you're listening to this and you think this sounds amazing and you want to check this out or check out the Academy, then, we'll have links on our description. So check out those links and you can get more information. So you also mentioned that you have a book out currently and you're starting writing another book. Can you talk about your first book? That's pretty cool to have a book out. That's your story.
Yeah.
It's your book.
So I'll tell you how it started with that book.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about the book. So I had no idea or no plans to write a book at all. It was more of something that just kind of happened. And I worked for the NBA for numerous years. And as I was going and traveling from country to country, I spent a lot of time in the airport, a lot of time sitting around waiting and doing different things. And while I was there, I was like, you know what? I should document this. So I started making a journal and writing the different things I was doing every single day. I thought maybe one day, 20 years from now, it's going to be nice to look back and see what I was doing on this day, in the past. You know what I mean? So I did that. And as I did it, I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty interesting. But it was crazy because I was using my real life experiences to tell or to narrate what I was actually going through. So my book ended up being a story based on adversity, but I used my real life experiences to narrate it. And if some of you guys don't know, I'm someone who's gone through a lot of different adversity in my life. And as I was writing this journal and I started turning it into a book, I realized that, if I tell my story and it's able to inspire somebody else, even one person, then I've done my job. I feel that everyone has a story and everybody has a glory story or a glory moment in their life. And the reason I call it Before My Glory is because my glory is different from your glory. It's different from someone else's glory and everyone else's glory. Like if we're relating it to basketball, which I do often, someone's glory story might be making their high school team. You know what I mean? Someone's glory story could be making it to the NBA. Yours could be something else. And mine could be something else. You know what I mean? So I wanted to find that glory in myself. And in doing that, help others realize that, it's not always about being rich, successful, and famous. Whatever your big or small glory story is something to be proud of. And someone else could learn from that.
Yeah, I think that is so cool. I love this idea that everybody has the glory moments, regardless of where you're from or what you're doing. You'll all have them. So I think that's a really cool concept. Now, from your experience, I've never written a book, and I just think the idea of writing a book is incredibly daunting. What was that experience like, sitting down and actually putting pen to paper?
Well, it started off organic, so it was very easy. I love to read. I grew up reading a lot. My family would always come looking for me. Couldn't find me. I'm off in a corner reading. So I felt like when I was doing it, that I already had knowledge in writing books because I read so much. Like I'm talking about 12 books in a month. Business books is what I would usually do. But I also like my storytelling books and stuff like that. And I like to think that I'm a storyteller. So as I wrote it, I wanted to make sure that I was writing this book in my words and people could read it the way that I was writing it. Some people told me I should write it a little differently. I decided that it's got to be written the way I want you to perceive it, the way that I perceived it. So that made it kind of difficult in terms of when I was getting it proofread from other people. But the most daunting part about it was actually sitting down, taking the time to, finish chapters or edit the book and do different things, because now it was all fun and games and I was just writing my journal and it was just a journal. But now when you have to put chapters and label different things for different parts in the book, and, that's where the daunting part comes in, because now it becomes work. You know what I mean? So the first book, again, was still a little bit easier to write. The second one is taking a little bit more time, but, it's coming. And somehow, for me, I had a moment where I was sitting back and thinking, because after I finished my first book and it was out for some time, somehow won Best Author of 2020. But, like I said, I had no idea or no plans to write a book.
Wow, that's incredible. And that's got to be one of the most just uplifting things to be like, I wasn't even trying to write a book and then you win Best Author. Now, doing that, which is all amazing, how do you feel going into the second book? Is there more pressure now that it's like, well, I've already my first one was incredible. Now I got to do this again.
Definitely more pressure going into the second one, because when I wrote the first book, after I wrote it, I thought about doing a trilogy. Like there's going to be Before My Glory and then Road to Glory. And then I won't say the name of the other one because I haven't put it out yet, but again, I never expected it to do as well as it did. I never expected to even be selling it at the rate that I sold it. I never expected there to be an audience behind it who's actually following it now and asking for the second one. So that is now it's pressure because, every month, every week, someone's saying, hey, when's the second one coming out? When's the second one coming out? When's this coming out? I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. And it makes me feel like I need to rush it, but I feel like the first one was so good because it was unknown. Nobody even knew that there was a book coming. There was no rush. It took me some time to do it, but it was no pressure. Now it's like, hello, we're waiting. When is this coming? Exactly. So it's creating dates that I'm having to live by. And obviously I'm putting that pressure on myself, but still, you know what I mean? It's more pressure because there was no pressure on the first one.
Yeah, there was no pressure. So I know you said that you're getting people asking you all the time. I have to ask the question, do you have the release date? When can people look forward to the book? Or what are you hoping, when are you hoping that it's going to be released? I know that can always shift around.
I'm hoping that the book will be released sometime this year. I do not have a specific date. We do have the cover art. We do have.
That's awesome.
I'd like to say a lot of the book is written, but it's not complete yet. Not to where I want it, at least. After that first book, I've set the standard at a higher, I put it at a higher standard now. So yeah, I just when I feel that it's ready and it's right, that's when I'll let it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's always so hard because I know, especially now, everybody's like, we're all like, we want the newest book, we want the newest movie, but these things take time, and sometimes you just have to not worry about the pressure and just make the product that you're proud of.
And you know what? It's also made me start researching other authors, and I've seen when one author has come out with a good book, sometimes the next book doesn't come out for 10 years. The follow-up, and I'm like, I'm being rushed to get this one out a year after the first one. But some authors take 10, 12 years to get that second one out. And, they say the second one's never as good as the first. So hopefully I can change that, though.
Yeah, I think the fact that you already had this idea for a trilogy and the first one, I think you're going to do really well with it. I think people just have to be a little bit patient. But I mean, it's exciting that everybody's just like, hey, we want the next book. We want the next book.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping as well. And I actually got interest in turning the book into a movie. So the first book into a movie. So cool. If that's the thing, then I guess the second one will have to wait a little bit longer. I'd be happy if it was able to happen, but I'm not, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't trying to make a book. I'm not even trying to make a movie, but if it happens, then.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's 3 books, I mean, you can always do a Netflix series or something too. Not to give you more stuff to think about, but I mean that would be amazing if you're able to get it to the screen as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So where can people find your book if they want to purchase it?
So there's 2 versions of the book right now. Both of them are currently on Amazon. So you can get the Kindle version on Amazon. Just type in Before My Glory. If it doesn't pop up, you can type in my name. It'll be there. And you could also get the paperback version on Amazon. And the paperback version is more like a deluxe type of version. So it has a little extra, more of an incentive to get the paperback. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I like feeling the pages and going through doing that kind of stuff. So, But yeah, you can find both of them on Amazon. Before My Glory by Justin Alliman.
That is the coolest thing ever. I'm so excited to see when the next book comes out, to see where the movies come out. I want to read the book. This is a really exciting time for sure. So you're DBNC's first official champion. Why did you want to become a champion, and what's that experience been like for you?
Well, I think that, when I was approached to be a DBNC champion, it was it was very organic to me. I felt like, I do a lot of work in the youth sector already. So this is like a natural fit. I work a lot in schools. I was just telling you before we started this. I currently work in 3 different schools right now. I've worked in maybe over 12 schools in total since I started doing school. I'm working in schools. But I just feel like it's important that, youth have somebody that they can look up to, that they can relate to, who've come from similar places that they've come from, who've gone through similar things that they have gone through. And through my experience working in the schools, this is something that I was missing. When I was in school, I felt like the people who were there, and maybe we didn't have mentors at the time because this is still kind of new, you know what I mean? But I just felt that it was necessary and for them to have someone that they could relate to. So that was my biggest thing. And, being able to be hands-on and speak with people on a one-on-one basis or a small group interface is really critical for these kids' development and showing them that someone actually cares about what they're doing and where their life is headed. So anytime that I can give back to the youth and be a bigger brother or a mentor or whatever they call it these days, I'll jump at that opportunity if the time permits me to.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you're doing that work, what is one thing that stood out to you the most, or like an experience that you're like, wow, you always think about that?
Well, I always go back to this one time I was working in a high school in Brampton called Louis Arbor. And, this was my first year working in the school, first opportunity to see what it was like, what these kids are going through. And at the time it was pretty rough what I saw going on there. But, we started a after school program. And with that program, we knew a lot of the kids were into basketball. So what we did is we used basketball as a tool to grab them. And then we showed them different life lessons as we were there, showed them how to act as, kids, young teenagers. A lot of these kids were, people of color, young Black kids. So we showed them like, this is how it is, unfortunately, in your society that we live in. And, the expectations for you could be different from other people. But we had this one kid he was on the verge of being expelled in his grade 10 year. He had to join the program as, I guess it was a punishment for him at the time. And by the time he was in grade 12, he ended up being valedictorian of his class, and now he's graduated university. He went to the University of Guelph. And, me and him actually still keep in contact to this day. He just messaged me last week saying he wanted to come to my facility. So, being able to forge bonds like that and help somebody, potentially turn their life around. It's going one way, and now he has a great career. He just got engaged. So being able to know that I had even a small portion of that is why I do it and what makes me feel like, this is necessary work in our community.
Yeah, that's incredible that you're doing that, and amazing to hear that. Yeah, there was one person who was struggling, but now they're on top of the world, and that you were part of that. That's got to make you feel really good.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm always curious about this, just because you're doing a million things. How are you managing all of it?
Well, it's managing me. I'm joking. You got to be organized, I would say, and having a great team of people surrounded by you. So for me, that's the biggest thing. And that involves people that you work with, your partner, if you have one, or spouse, wife, husband, whomever it is. For me, it's wife. And the team that I work with, it's handpicked. It's handpicked, and it's people that I trust to be able to run things when I'm not there, who I know are going to be organized, who are going to be on top of things, and who are also going to hold me accountable. If I said I was going to do something by, February 3rd, is there somebody there who's going to hold me accountable and say, hey, Justin, I know you got a lot of things going on, but you got to take the time out to get this done, because there's a deadline and people need to get these things just as much as you need to get them. So having that great team and, that support at home and all around is what's key to being able to manage this. And then also taking time for yourself, knowing when enough is enough. You got to turn the lights off, go to bed, get sleep, go on vacation, spend time with family, exercise. I'm big on that because it's all great for your mind health and your physical health, and keeps you in the best shape of your life and allows you to be able to continue moving forward the way you need to.
Yeah, those things are all true. I find exercise especially helpful when, just There's something about being able to work out and then feeling good. And then almost in my case, where I feel like if I have a good gym a day at the gym, everything else is good because I've worked out. But I think it's so great that you have such a wonderful team to support you. You've got a great partner who's willing to support you, which you need if you're going to be doing all of these things. So I think that's wonderful. And talking about Dream Chasers for a second, actually, we can talk a lot about it. But how did you get such a great roster? Because, you know, we didn't really touch on this earlier, but it's not like you're just like bringing on random people to coach, but you're bringing top people in basketball.
I think, you know, I would say it's the respect that people have for the brand and for myself, and the passion that they have for the sport. You know, I never really wanted to have people there who don't care about it. The worst thing you can do is start a company or have a program and have people around you who are not as passionate as you or more. You know, personally, I want to have people who are more passionate than me because it's gonna drive me to want to do more, you know? So, again, having the right circle. But for me, the people who I have in place right now are people I've grown up with, you know? So it's been a lifelong journey of trust that I've had with these people. And they've just so happened to, you know, make something of themselves and be successful in their own rights. And now we can all be successful together. But it made it easy to choose them because, you know, when you have people who are in your circle, you're very common, you know? So the people who are there are people I grew up playing basketball with. I know what their competitive edge is. I know what their competitive drive is. I know what buttons to push to get them to go. And they know the same for me. So again, you know, Drake always says, or he said it one time, no new friends. And that's the motto I kind of stuck with in that respects. And it's worked out because, you know, our clientele, they like what I'm doing and they like the guys that we have in place.
Yeah, I love that idea that you want people that are more passionate than you so that you can continuously, you know, stay on top of it and just push yourself even harder because you have such an amazing team that's just so passionate about it. I also think it's interesting. I've never heard people say that. Like I've heard people say, yeah, you should maybe have one or two friends, but I think it's great that you're able to like really just work with your childhood friends. And when you say they know what buttons to push, it's like, okay, that adds another layer of complexity to it. But I think it's great that, you know, you have people that you've known for so long that you know you can rely on to get the job done.
Absolutely. And it's like I said, like you never really choose. I never chose to like starting this business, wanting to go into business with my personal friends or anything like that. It just happened to work out that way because over a period of time, they're showing you that this is something that they also want. And again, you do need those people who are a little bit more passionate than you because there's going to be some days that, you know, I don't really want to be at work or I don't want to do this. And they're going to be like, yo, we have goals. There's things we want to accomplish. When I go into the office, there's goals that are there and they're checking them off. You know what I mean? There's dates that I haven't done and there's always reminders from them that, hey, we said we're going to do it by this day. Let's try to get it done the best way that we can, or ideas are being shared. And that's what you want. Like, I can't be the only one coming to the table with all the ideas and executing all the ideas because then how are we going to grow? You know what I mean? It's not just about me growing or the business growing. Like, we need to grow as individuals ourselves as well so that we could push forward the best product, the best brand, and the best company that we can do for everyone else who comes there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, all of that is just, it's amazing. And I just love, I can't get over the work that you're doing. And that, you know, you really want to advocate through Dream Chasers for the rest of the community. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what drives you to do that every day?
Well, you know, I started off as an underdog is what I like to call myself at the time. I still, even now, you know, people might have said or could say that, you know, you're successful in your own right or you're doing X, Y, and Z. But to me, it's never enough because everyone has been helped and you're not going to be able to help everyone. But, you know, we all play a part in this world and, you know, I'm still young. So there's so many different lives I haven't been able to impact or touch or do anything like this, you know. So I just want to make sure that the people who were like me when I was coming up, who, like I said, were the underdogs, have the same opportunities that everyone else has, you know. And unfortunately for me, I didn't have that. So where my fight comes from is trying to make sure that the playing fields are equal and even for everyone, and that's where I get my biggest motivator or impact or push from.
Yeah, I totally respect that. And I think it's great that you're just trying to level the playing field because, we all come from different situations and we all have different opportunities. So I think having something like Dream Chaserzzz where you can really just level the playing field, and we talked about this earlier, anyone can join of any kind of skill, and the fact that you're also helping people that maybe don't have access, maybe that don't have the financial capabilities to do other kinds of programs, but you're just really trying to make it accessible. Yeah. That is really, really commendable.
Thank you. We just do what we can.
Yeah. I think, you know what? That's such a good statement because I get the feeling that a lot of times we're looking at the world, especially, I don't want to say it's pre or post COVID because COVID's still very much here, but we look at things and we look at how bad things are and we're like, well, what can I possibly do? But I think that attitude of we do what we can. We can't help it. As you said, you can't help everybody, but we can help someone. Exactly. And if you can help someone, then you're doing it.
Exactly. And that someone might help someone else. And that's how you hope that it goes, right? It should be a snowball effect. I help you, you help someone else. And before you know it, thousands more people are getting, the help that they need in whatever field or right that is that they need it.
Yeah, no, I think the snowball effect, very true. And just, you help someone and they help someone else. Now, I do want to shift gears. I do want to get into something a little bit more serious, actually, a few more serious things. One, because, you mentioned it's Black History Month. This is February. What's your experience been like doing all of this while still dealing with the issues of race?
I don't want to say it's been super difficult, but it has been difficult, obviously there's a lot of different hoops and hurdles that I've had to jump through. Just looking the way that I look, I'm not a typical business owner, so I have to watch the way that I speak. I have to watch the way that I dress or articulate myself or watch the people I'm around, because not that they're bad people or I'm dressing in a way that I shouldn't be dressing, because you can dress however you want. I shouldn't have to be judged for that. But unfortunately, I am. You know what I mean? I have tattoos, and my skin's dark. And, when I go into certain meetings, people look at that and automatically judge me and think, there's no way that I'm going to do business with this guy. You know what I mean? He's one of them, or for other words. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then when they hear me speak and they hear about the programs that I run, I feel like they don't have any choice. And of course, they still do have a choice. But if I'm advocating for something that to many is so needed, I think that softens them up a little bit. But by any means, it's not easy at all. I mean, it's just difficult having to be someone of color in a world where, we're secondary, if that. It should be, I believe it should be equal. It doesn't matter. Like, I have tattoos. I'm a Black man, and I listen to a certain type of music when we work out. It's just, that's the culture that I'm in. It's unfortunate, but yeah, sometimes it becomes difficult to be able to be in certain rooms without having, the same respect as everyone else who is more easily given that access. I felt like I have to do a lot more to get into those rooms and to be heard.
Right, and to be heard. And do you find it, because I know you're saying it's challenging, but how do you get up every day knowing that, okay, when you get into these certain rooms, you're going to have to work harder just to be able to get what everybody else gets and just be able to make people go, oh, you know what, this is someone I want to do business with?
Yeah, of course. Every morning, wake up, I got to do my routine. Because for us, again, like for myself, for someone like me, I have a short string already. You know what I mean? So I go in there and there's even a hair out of place. That could be the last string that makes them not want to do business with me. Whereas other people might have a longer leash, you know what I mean? But I get up every day and do it because I know that people who came before me had a much harder road to travel. You know what I mean? If all I have to do is be well groomed and articulate myself the way that, in specifically in a room where, other people might be in who don't have the same respect for me, then I find that as being easy because I know what people had to endure in the past. Like there's a lot of people who've come before me who have fought for me to even be able to get into those rooms. So it's my job now to do what I have to do to make it even easier for the next generation, for my kids and my kids' kids and everything and everyone like that, So I'll put on a suit and tie if I got to do it. I'll make sure I'm well groomed and I'll speak a certain language if that's what I have to do. But, it's unfortunate that is what I have to do, but
yeah,
that's how it is right now.
Right. And I think it's great that you're able just to get up and, try and, you have your mission and you know what you have to do and you're able to do that. But, and this always makes me think about, okay, well, so you're doing all of these things, you're getting up every day. That's got to be draining. And that always leads me to mental health. You want to maybe talk a little bit about mental health and wellness and how you're able to kind of keep your own wellness.
Well, again, like just to touch back on what you were mentioning, it's definitely draining because, I'm not going to feel my best every morning. Every day I don't want to have to, put on a suit and tie or do specific things that I might have to do that others might not have to do to be in those rooms. And just to know that even when I do all these things, I still might not be accepted just because of the color of my skin or my race or how I'm presenting myself. But what I do to deal with that mental health is I try to channel my emotions to the best of my ability and understand that, people don't see the world that I see. Everyone sees the world differently. And my duty or my job right now for the next generation could be to allow people or to help others who are not like me be able to see it the way that I see it or that others like me see it. And if I could do that again to even one person or, a group of people, then I feel like that's going to have a longer lasting change and effect for generations to come. But again, for my mental health, I talked one time on a podcast about going to therapy and doing different things that will help you release those certain emotions that, a lot of us might be keeping inside, because it's natural and it's healthy to talk about things that you might have issues with or problems with. And it just helps so that you don't have to keep it inside and potentially have a blow up somewhere down the line.
Yeah, there's so much that you said, so much to unpack. But I think when you talk about therapy, I think that's so true that often people think, well, maybe therapy, if you're going to therapy, there must be a real problem with you. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's actually a really good way to be able to work through things that you're dealing with. I always think of, whenever I hear about therapy, I always think of Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond, who nothing to do with therapy, but he said, yeah, when he finished the show, he went into therapy and he recommends it because even if you don't think you're going through something, it's still a good way to unwind and sort of unpack how you're feeling. So I think that's, totally a great way of being able to cope, especially in your situation where you are having to fight extra hard just to get to the room and just to get the same willingness from others to work with you.
And I never even thought about it the way that you just broke it down, but you're right. Everybody's definitely going through something, whether that's good or bad or neutral. There's something that, we're all going through or battling or we can talk about. But I also say to people, because, the traditional way of therapy or thinking about therapy is you go in a room like this potentially, and you lay there on one of those sofas and there's a therapist with a notepad and he's just listening to you speak. But maybe if you're not ready for all that, you start with a different form of therapy. For me personally, I've done both. Like I've done that, but I've also, for me, I like to take walks. That's therapy for me. In the summertime, I'm out there every day, 20, 30, 40, turns into an hour-minute walk, just in my own thoughts, seeing the sun, hearing the birds, doing all that. That's therapy. You know what I mean? Again, for others, it could be exercise. For some, it could be going for runs. Mm-hmm. For some, again, for me, I like to take a lot of alone time. So I'll go on a trip by myself for 2 or 3 days and just relax, Anything that can get your body relaxed and allow you to release whatever it is that's in you that you feel that, you can't just get out on a normal day-to-day basis, I believe is therapy. So you don't have to go to sit on the couch, find what works for you, and then you go with that.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, yeah, sitting on a couch can be great to have that conversation, but also, as you say, going for walks. There's something you mentioned, hearing the birds. There's something so calming to me about just hearing just the sounds outside. For me, I've always found traffic to be very therapeutic in a weird way where it's like, no matter what's going on, there's still going to be some people on here, Ontario, honking their horns. But it's like, it helps you feel not grounded, but there's something about just focusing on those sounds for me that's always helped. But what do you do to decompress? Like at the end of a long day, what's the thing that, like outside of doing the walk, where you're like, I can just do this, I can relax, I can kind of refresh myself and then wake up the next morning to go and do it all again?
Well, I mean, it depends on the day. There's a lot of different ways that I like to decompress, but mainly it's just like everybody else. I like to go home. I like to, take 30 minutes to myself away from everything else that could be happening in my home and just lay there. Maybe I'll watch something on TV. I'll read a book. I'll scroll on my phone. Sometimes I just sit in my car. I'm a person who loves my own solitude. Like I really love solitude. Maybe because of how I've grown up. I was alone a lot. So that's what always brings me back to my comfort and keeps me grounded, knowing that I could enjoy my own moments and time alone. Because for the work that I do, I'm surrounded by people all day. I work in a school. There's thousands of kids there. I go to my gym. There's hundreds of kids there, so every day, all day, I'm hearing chatter in my ears. Somebody's asking me for this. Somebody's saying, can you help me do that? So I feel like when I finally get home, I'm just like, I don't want to hear anybody or anything. Just let me sit here when no one's asking me any questions.
Yeah.
And, be alone with my own thoughts and my time and take some time for myself to read and maybe jot down notes and write.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that like being here, it's like, yes, I'm talking to clients all the time. There's conversations I'm having, in the hallway, but there's something nice about being able just to go home and decompress and just be alone into your own thoughts to refresh yourself for the next day. Because I think like one of the things I always find interesting is that when you talk about introverts versus extroverts, people always think introverts don't like to socialize. We do. We just need to be alone to regenerate ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
So I think that's great that you're able to share that.
In my last, I have a 6-month-old, so of course I like to go home. And even when I talk to everybody else throughout the day, when I come home and I see her, the first thing she does is smile every single time. So I'm like, you know what? This is it right here. I could take that 30 minutes I was going to use alone and be with her. She doesn't talk yet. She makes noises, but she just, when you're so young and you're just so innocent, you have no idea what's going on in the world. So they're not asking anything of you. They just enjoy your company, your body warmth and having you there. So that right there gives me a lot of comfort and enjoyment.
Well, I love that. I mean, that's so great to hear. I hope to have kids soon. I shouldn't say I hope to. I will be having kids soon. It's going to happen. And that moment you're talking about is something I look forward to, being able just to hold my kid and just have them smile and just to be with them. And I think it's great that you're like, that's another thing. You're a full-time dad. Like, it's incredible all the work you're doing. Now I do have one last question. Actually, two more questions. One, when you look back, what was one of the hardest life lessons that you learned?
One of the hardest life lessons that I've learned. Well, it's unfortunate, but not everyone always has your best interest at heart.
Right.
And I don't have to get into this scenario or anything like that.
No, but you have to share whatever you're comfortable with.
But yeah, there's a lot of times when I shouldn't say a lot of times. There could be times when, you're working with someone or you're doing business together or, you're friends with someone and you never really know what somebody else's alternative motives are. Right. You know what I mean? So there comes a time where, let's say you're in business and you're sharing confidential things with someone else in good favor and trust. But and obviously in hopes that this person is holding that information just between the two of you and is not going to be using it for anything else. But again, like I said, you never really know, you know what I mean, until something happens. It's unfortunate that, you know, at times we do have to figure that out, or we are exposed to the fact that, you know, I let somebody into my life. I trusted them with my secrets or my business or whatever it is, and come to find out that they were using it for their own gain. You know, they weren't really interested in getting to know you the way that you thought, or getting to know your business the way they thought. It was more so for an advantage for them to do whatever it is that they were going to do. So I'd say that's one of the hardest lessons, because, you know, people, well, for me, trust is something that you really shouldn't just give out so freely. I feel like people need to earn your trust, just like anything else. But I was somebody, or am someone who, you know, trusts fairly easy. For how it works for me is, you got to lose my trust, you know? And now I realize you need to earn my trust, especially moving into the different circles that I'm moving into, or a different life that I'm going to. You need to earn my trust now, opposed to me just giving it to you, you know? So that was one of the hardest lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, I think that's a really, not necessarily unique experience, but I think it's something that happens to all of us. And we, you know, get in situations where we trust someone that we shouldn't have. And that's something to be aware of. And I think it's great that you're still very trusting, but in the back of your mind, it's like, okay, this has happened before. Now, in a similar vein, maybe it's a different answer, but if you could go back in time to talk to your 16-year-old self without messing up any timeline issues, no problems, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I would say to go after everything that you dreamed of going after. Don't be afraid of failing. And don't take no for an answer, in terms of, like, you know, if someone doesn't believe in what you believe in, that's them. That's their thoughts. It's not mine. You know, it has nothing to do with me. That's just their perception on what they think you can do. You know what I mean? But you're the only one who knows what you can do. And you're the only one who has the ability to do it. Don't listen to them. Go after it. Dream big, and do what it is that you want to do with your life, because you only have one, you know, and when it's over, you don't want to regret anything. So I would definitely say that, because I feel like there were some opportunities in my life that, you know, I've turned down because I was afraid of failing. And to this day, I never got the opportunity back. I'm never going to get that opportunity back, because it's one of those things you have to do in the moment, or within a certain age. You know what I mean? So now I'm never going to get that opportunity, but I would definitely tell my younger self to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a good piece of advice, just to do what you want to do, the thing that you dream about. And when an opportunity arrives and you think, I would love to do it, but I can't take it, you know, just do it, because as you say, it's never going to come back again. You've obviously achieved a lot, but there's probably still, like, you know, I wish I had done that thing. So I think that's a great piece of advice, and something that I've heard a lot from our guests over the last year, that just do what you want to do, the thing that gets you excited. But thank you so much for being here today. It's been a great conversation, and I'm just so excited that you already have a book out. You're planning a second one's on the way. You've got big things happening. You've mentioned LA. You can't talk about it, but it's just also wonderful. And I really appreciate you being able to spend some time with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being here. You've always been so nice, and, you know, set the environment for me to be able to open up and share different experiences with you and the audience that we have here. So appreciate that. And hopefully I'll be back here soon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have book number 2, or you want to talk about what's going on in LA, or if you just want to come in for a conversation, that would be great. We'd definitely love to have you back.
Absolutely.
On the podcast
for sure.
Again.